Okay. Hello, everyone. My name is Etienne Waldron. I'm a developer advocate at Ledger. Very happy to be here in Istanbul. Istanbul is like a second home to me, so very happy to be here, and thank you for inviting me. Today we will have a look at how we can better understand and predict transactions. But first, I have a question for you. Who here can tell me what this transaction does? Yeah, quite hard, yeah? And if you're having a hard time, it's normal, because the only thing we see here is a message hash, and a hash is not human-friendly. It's very hard to know what's about to happen on this screen. And this is typically what we call blind signing. So in blind signing, it's very hard to see if it's a legit operation, if the payload is malicious, maybe it's not even the correct contract or the correct function, or maybe we're authorizing an action we don't mean to. In general, we say that blind signing is a lot like signing a blank check. Obviously, you would not sign a blank check, yet sometimes you blind sign transactions. But the general rule is, if it's unreadable, it's also unpredictable. And if it's unpredictable, it's unsafe to sign. Getting scammed is not fun. I think we all agree on this. I put some few examples here. So we have the WazirX hack, where $230 million was stolen. So I want you guys to really take a moment and appreciate the figures here. $230 million was stolen in 2024. And we have a very nice article from Cointelegraph that says that one major cause of the hack was the necessary practice of blind signing token transactions from hardware wallets. And because the users did not see the destination address on their screen, they did not know where they were sending their tokens. And so what's interesting here is that you might think because you have a hardware wallet, you are always safe. But in reality, you're only safe as long as you understand what you are signing. On the right here, again, some really insane numbers. We have over $300 million stolen in 2023, with the Inferno attack alone having $108 million stolen. A more recent example, I'm sure you're very familiar with, is the Bybit recent hack, where $1.4 billion was stolen. So again, this shows how important it is to be able to understand and predict the transactions. So we've been signing transactions on ETH for a decade now, and one of the topics of this ETHIstanbul conference is the 10 years of Ethereum, yet we are still facing in 2025 1.4 billion hacks. So something really needs to be done about it, and that something is clear signing. So we will now see how we can build a safer experience and fix all these issues we've seen just before. So what would this solution look like? Obviously, we need for all the information to be here, to be displayed when we are about to sign, we need the full context as a user. The solution also needs to be human-friendly, needs to be explained in a natural language, in English. It needs to be standardized. It shouldn't be just a ledger solution. It should be wallet agnostic. And it should be easy to implement for all the devs of all the main dApps out there. You might wonder, why don't we use the ABIs? After all, the ABIs are a complete list of functions with all the inputs and outputs. So why don't we just use the ABI and display from the ABI? But actually, the ABI is not, doesn't get you far enough. And one of the reasons is the intent is unclear. So for example, here we see exact input single, which is not very human-friendly. We have a raw token address instead of having the name. And on the right screen here, we can see that the amount is in base unit, which is great if you're a machine, but we're not machines. So very hard to understand how much we are actually sending or receiving here. And we also have some parameters which are unnecessary. It's very hard to be able to craft the screens and choose which fields are showing or not. We have here the evolution of transaction clarity. So we have on the top part all the Ethereum advancements, and on the bottom is how Ledger reacted to all of these protocol changes. So again, we have the first ETH transaction in July 2015. We had basic message signing with EIP 191 a year later. A year after that, in 2017, we had typed data structures. And of course, at the bottom, every time you have the reactions from Ledger. What's interesting on this slide as well is that in 2021, we introduced plugins. And plugins are little apps that live on Ledger devices where they're complementary to the main Ethereum app. And this was one of the solutions to clear sign transactions. Typically, each dApp would have their own plugin for the device, which is nice, it works, but it's obviously not very scalable and not wallet agnostic like we saw a bit earlier. But it's really in 2024 that we announced the Ledger Clear Signing Initiative, which is actually ERC 7730. And the main purpose of this is to standardize clear signing and to make transactions human readable. So let's dive in, ERC 7730. We can see here a clear signing flow. So on the first screen, we immediately see we are about to swap tokens. So we are put in the right conditions. We can immediately continue, feel comfortable. And on the second screen in the middle, we can see all of the detail of the transaction. So we see we are about to interact with the 1-inch Fusion swap contract. We are about to send 1,000 wrapped MATIC and receive 554.91 USDT. We can check if the receiver is correct. Does this match my address? And if everything looks good, we just sign the transaction by holding the screen. So obviously, if we compare with the previous screen we saw with blind signing, where we just have the hash on the left, the right flow is much more transparent, human-friendly, and empowering. We really feel in control as a user, and we are much more comfortable signing this type of transaction. Okay, how does it work? So we ask dApp developers, as part of the ERC 7730 standard, to create a JSON file. This JSON file will describe the smart contract, have all the functions and variables that it needs, and the purpose is to make the smart contract human readable. To create these JSON files, Ledger has released edition tools, so it's a very visual and easy way to create a JSON file. It takes roughly 10 minutes, so roughly 10 minutes to create a JSON file, and you join the Clear Signing Initiative. Once you do create your JSON file, you submit it to an open public registry created for this. And there's a security team at Ledger that's in charge of the endorsement. So every smart contract JSON file in this registry is audited by Ledger, by the security team at Ledger. And obviously, the purpose of this open registry is to make it transparent. There will be a QR code a bit later, but you will see that a lot of the main dApps out there have actually already created their JSON file for clear signing, which is nice to see. And finally, all the magic happens in the last step, where all the data is parsed, filtered, and formatted to be displayed on the device. And of course, if you have a Ledger device, you can be sure that what you see on the device, what you see on your screen, is what's about to happen. Here's an example of a JSON file with a QR code that will take you to it. So we can see we have an amount in field from the smart contract, which we chose to label amount to send here. The format of this field is token amount, which is exactly what we want. And at the bottom here, what's interesting, we have a required field. So this typically is where we craft the screens and we show which screens are necessary to be displayed as part of the transaction. So here, in this case, we want the amount in, the amount out, and the recipient to be displayed. Obviously, JSON files are very easy to understand, both for humans and for machines. They're lightweight and efficient. It's very easy to nest data. I'm sure you're all very familiar with them. So that's the JSON file behind the Clear Signing Initiative. And I did mention the tool, the JSON creation tool. So now we're going to see how Aave might have used this JSON creation tool to create their JSON file. So it's a very simple process. On the first screen, we just enter the contract address. So here we put Aave's contract address. We then enter basic metadata, so typically the owner name, the legal name, the URL, and we have a nice preview on the Ledger Flex device as well on how it will look like. And then we really enter the crafting phase, where each screen, each function is defined. So here we chose the borrow operation from the smart contract. We chose to give it a name, which is borrow tokens. We then renamed the amount and integrate fields. And we can also hide fields. Anything unnecessary to be displayed on the screen, we can hide. And on the right, again, some very nice previews on what it looks like for the user. And then when you're done, you just download the JSON file and you submit it to the registry I mentioned a bit earlier, with a QR code here as well if you want to see all the other JSON files. And that's it. I did say it was fast. Now you can see the Aave transactions are ready to be clear-signed. So we have an example on the right of what that looks like. Yeah. So what's next? Right now we're really entering an education phase, so we're doing lots of workshops, onboarding lots of wallets and dApps. We do want to work more on Ethereum, on the clear signing part of things, by clear signing account abstraction and 7702, for example. But of course, although clear signing Ethereum is nice, it's not the only chain out there, so we're also working on clear signing more chains, such as Solana, Cosmos, Near, Bitcoin, in no particular order. However, understanding transactions, it's a big improvement, but it may not be enough. We are humans, and humans make mistakes. So it's not because you understand the transaction that it has to be safe. And for this reason, we at Ledger released a new feature called transaction checks. What this does, essentially, it will run a simulation of the transaction before it happens to understand if you're interacting with a malicious function or contract, if there's abusive permits, or all sorts of security risk. It's really complementary to clear signing because, as we saw, clear signing is the human side of it, and this is the machine side of it. So together they participate in making you safer. We can see a nice example on the right of a threat being detected. So we have the name of the provider here. We can choose to go back to safety and cancel the transaction, or accept the threat and continue, which of course is not always recommended. So it's pretty simple in how it works. The transaction is crafted in the wallet first, then it's sent to trusted third parties. So we work with 3 third parties here, Blockade, Tenderly, and Cybers. They will run a simulation of the transaction, return a risk analysis, and this risk analysis, together with the clear signing flow, will be displayed on the device. We can see a very visual example here of what it looks like. So we have on the left a verified transaction where all is well, we're ready to sign. And on the right, a threat being detected with a different flow, where we can also click on the detail to see why exactly this transaction was flagged as malicious. And we're very happy to say that after the 2 months of release, we had secured over 20 million prevented in losses thanks to transaction checks, with close to 2,000 malicious transactions flagged. So it just shows the importance of being able to understand and predict transactions. A few useful links to finish. We have a full team at Ledger working on documentation. There's a full section on clear signing there if you're interested. It will show you how to integrate and how to turn your smart contract into a nice JSON file for clear signing. We have a homepage dedicated to clear signing as well. The repo I did mention earlier with all the JSON files on it for all the main dApps out there. And of course, the blog posts where we post not only about Ledger, but about the whole ecosystem moving forward. Thank you very much.
Thanks a lot. Is there any question?
Hi. I was going to ask the device you've shown, is it connected to the internet?
No.
How does it interface for the clear signing and for the threat detection then?
That is a very good question. The specificities I would have to look to give you a very good answer, but yeah, I would have to look more into it. Yeah.
Okay, thanks.
So.
I'll catch you.
One more question.
Thanks a lot, nice talk. Do you think it's possible to do this transaction simulation on the user side, or it's out of scope? So I was just wondering about the privacy implications of all this transaction simulation. You know, as a ledger user, I don't want a third party to know what kind of transactions I'm about to make, or it's out of scope because it's too computationally hard to simulate the transaction on the device, so you wouldn't even consider doing the transaction simulation on the client side. I just curious what your thoughts on this privacy leakage, or is there any plan to do this transaction simulation on the user side? Yeah, I was just thinking about these issues.
Sure, it's a very good point, and you know, obviously not everyone is comfortable with having transaction simulation, and this is why the feature is actually optional. So you can choose to opt in or not, but we did see the numbers. You know, of course, more advanced users might feel more comfortable having it off, but for the general public, I think it's a good thing.
But one more question. I'm sorry.
Yeah.
One last question.
Hello, and thank you for your talk. I have a little question. What if my wallet is shown as dangerous because of like the data provider doesn't just like me?
If your personal wallet would be shown as malicious.
My personal wallet, the wallet of my startup, like any wallet of mine,
So
like don't we have to trust the data provider in this step?
sure, and this is also why we work with several of them. So there's an aggregation, and there's different levels of, you know, if all three providers agree that it's a massive threat, then of course it has more trust than if only one of them agrees. But typically here, as we can see, it's more about malicious functions or smart contracts or authorizations. Your personal wallet would most likely not figure in this list.
Most likely, but it could be still shown
I
as
mean,
dangerous.
if your personal wallet was associated with a scam by deploying a scammy smart contract, for example, it could be associated, I imagine. But you know, sending you tokens would not constitute a risk.
Like, okay, of course, an attack to, I don't know, network or a bad smart contract is like a good reason to be shown as a bad wallet. But what if it's just like politics?
I mean, I don't think there's any politics in the flagging.
I couldn't hear.
Yeah. There's nothing about politics here. It's just did the history of this smart contract or function show signs of a scam, or was it associated to known scams that were witnessed? And in this case, it would enter
Okay.
yeah.
Thank you.
Okay, thanks a lot.
Thank you.
Yeah.